So for a while now, I've made my distaste for to-do lists known, and I have a couple of videos about them, but to some of my viewpoints, a to-do list isn't actually a list of things for you to do. It's a list that you write down because you have thoughts in your brain of what you want to do, and when you write those down, you no longer have to exert any mental energy in keeping track of those things, so nothing slips through the crack, and it should be something that you reference once a week and then pick the most important tasks off of it. And like, I've literally tried to finish my to-do list in the past, and when I first started, I had like a one-page document, just things I want to get done. And then through keep tracking new things and just using my phone to be like, hey Siri, remind me of this, it became a Goliath, like 32-page document in Google Docs, single-spaced, 10 font. Like, your to-do list is never going to go away. Trying to finish it is not the goal. The goal is not to be more productive. The goal is not to be more productive necessarily. The goal is to be more selective about what tasks you take, to pick tasks that are going to move the needle the most so that your overall output is greater, which makes you more productive. But useless work is useless work, and no matter how much of it that you do, it's not going to move you forward. So let's get into this.
One of the biggest challenges I had with to-do list for me, especially having ADHD, is having to deal with writing all that to-do list, and I would find I would be defeated because I would maybe do one of them, maybe a couple of them, but never was able to really finish all 10 or 15 that I would write the night before. And this just felt defeating, and I felt like I was worthless. I felt like I just couldn't accomplish anything, and I wasn't productive and I wasn't focused because I wasn't hitting.
Yeah, it's when you start defining your success by the length of your to-do list, you run into a huge issue because things come up and that list just keeps getting longer and longer. Because, like, I don't know, so you have a to-do list and you're like, well, let's see, I want to put a pool into my backyard. Well, now that branches you off into all these tasks that need to happen in order to make a pool there. And you kind of like select how busy you want to be, because by how much, like, the tasks that you take on, the less you do, the less you'll have to do. But the more you do, the more that actually pops up. Like, if you're a monk sitting in a monastery just meditating all the time, you don't really have to do anything. If you want to, like, own a car, own a house, like, go on vacation, do all these other things that, in my opinion, make life more enjoyable, it opens you up to a huge list. And then once you get enough of that stuff done off of your list, you then look, oh, what else do I want to do with my time now? And then you pick something, and that will open you up to a whole new list of things that you want to do. So you kind of decide how busy you want to be, but prioritizing is number one.
Every little thing I wrote on that to-do list. And I did this throughout college, medical school, and been doing it for my business, but I desired to be more productive, especially for my business. And I found that this wasn't working because every time I would not finish something, I always felt defeated, and that would really get to my head and my mindset and felt like I wasn't good enough and I should maybe not be a doctor. I shouldn't be running my own practice and running my own business because I just wasn't simply checking all the boxes on my to-do.
I didn't feel like I wasn't good enough when I wasn't able to accomplish it. I felt like, well, I didn't put the blame necessarily on myself. I was like, okay, there has to be some system I can, like, implement. Like, I wound up reading books and then autistically trying to implement everything the book said into my life, regardless of nuance, and annoying a lot of people with it. But also, like, it just doesn't work. Like, I tried, what's the horrible book? There's one thing. Getting Things Done. I hate that book. But did not actually ease up my workload.
To-do list. And I was simply just believing a lot of people who would maybe tell me that I was lazy and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing and have an excuse because of my ADHD. But I wanted to do more. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be there for my family, to be able to run a business and have it be successful and being efficient and productive. So I knew there had to be a better way because the to-do list was just not working out for me, and there had to be something else other than doing a to-do list to be more productive and efficient. So what I did is,
I also want to add, it becomes really stressful when you start defining your productivity by the number of tasks that you get done off of that to-do list, especially as it grows. So when I was trying to implement all those new systems into my life, I first off had to take time away from work in order to read the books, in order to implement the stuff. But like when you get down to it, you're literally time blocking off like every 5 minutes, and then something pops up. I know your grandmother falls down the stairs, like something randomly pops up, and you're like, I can't get this stuff I want to get done today done. And it's not a pretty picture, especially if you have anger issues. And that might be one of the reasons I have a video on my channel called Anger. And it's my quote is, I don't have anger issues. I have an issue with there not being a sledgehammer and a punching bag within 10 feet of me at all times.
As I started reading books, I mean, I've always been reading books, but I was looking for specific books that helped me to be more productive and maybe do something different than doing a to-do list, especially something with the ADHD brain like my mind. And I came across a wonderful book called The One Thing by Gary Keller that really just changed everything when it came to a to-do list or just getting tasks done. And in this, it really talks about focusing on that one thing. And where
we're gonna let this guy talk. One Thing is an amazing book, but what I want to talk about is kind of like how bad it can get for you with ADHD, because you have it and then you go to the doctor and your doctor's like, write down a to-do list for everything you want to get done, and that's going to help you organize your brain. So you start doing that and you're like, it's working. And eventually your to-do list just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you start panicking. You're like, how do I make this work? And eventually that to-do list becomes like its own demon, where it's just sucking you into this stressful situation. Whereas beforehand, you might not have been as productive, or some things might have fallen through the cracks, but you weren't nearly as stressed out most of the time. Some people get really stressed out when stuff starts falling through the cracks. But for me, like, there's a sweet period in there where I found the to-do list very helpful. So I thought that was always going to be helpful. And then when it stopped being helpful, I held on to it for much longer than I should have.
Us people with ADHD, especially us entrepreneurs that have a million things that we could be doing and a million business ideas, and we can't focus on that one thing. But when we focus on that one thing, we can be really efficient. This book really emphasizes on really tapping into your super genius, really tapping on focusing on that one thing, especially when it came to being efficient on that one thing that you should be focusing on, that you should do that day, that is best for you, especially for your business. Now, if you're getting any value here, then if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button, because I talk everything about ADHD, especially for adults and especially entrepreneurs that have that ADHD mind, and share all sorts of tips. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because we talk about that every single week. So after reading that book, I decided I really need to simplify things and threw away my to-do list, realized that wasn't the way for me to do things.
I don't say throw away your to-do list. What I say to do is, I still have my 20, I cut it down a lot. I did save the old version, but I cut it down. It's now 21 pages or something. But I save it, and what I do is I look at that and I go through and I scan it to pick out the one thing that I want to be focusing on. But having all my tasks there that I can look at really helps me know that I'm doing the most important one I could be working on
from here on out. So every night, what I started to do, what I was learning from the book, is to pick one big thing. But then I realized that maybe I needed to do 3 big things, only 3 big things, nothing more than that, and pick those 3 important things that I needed to do in my business. That was the most important thing, activities that I need to do in order for my business to thrive and to move forward, to be a productive. Now, initially, this was hard to narrow down my 10, 15 to-do list and narrow it down to 1 or 3 at the most. And I did find it was hard to do, but over time, what I came to realize is by me taking that effort of narrowing it down to 3 important things, I found that all the other to-do lists were almost kind of a waste of time, and I was being way more efficient and productive throughout the year as I was doing this every night, writing down those 1 or 3 important things. And it so happened that I was being more productive and efficient with my time because I was focused on the things that I was really good at. Because I found the things that I wasn't good at, I hired other people to do it for me, because I didn't have to do it at all and only focus on the things.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to a certain point in your business, you can start hiring other stuff out to people that you don't like. They talk about this a lot and buy back your time. But one thing I want to add here, the things you pick each day, one thing I found is I kind of pick like weekly goals. So I pick 3 big things, or maybe 1 big thing for the month, for weekly goals, and I just focus on that and chipping away at that. So I get up, I eat my breakfast, I get ready to work, I sit down to work, and I work on that for 3 hours, take a rest, work on it for 3 hours, take a rest, and then I'll try to work on it a little bit more. If I can't, if my brain is just mentally spent for that day, I go for a walk, I go meditate, I go for a run, jiu-jitsu, hang out with friends, have a fire, hang out with my family, like do something else in order to recharge, because I'm throwing my best quality hours at this problem in order to fix it, in order to get past it, in order to do what I want to do. And once you get to that point where you're starting to get headaches, rest, because that's your body telling you you're going too far. If you keep pushing, your sleep's going to go downhill, your brain capacity is going to go downhill, you're not going to be able to get through any tasks that you want to actually get done. So you don't have to get the big things done each day, but you pick a big task and then you give it all of your effort. If you need to set deadlines, then if you need to, for yourself, set 3 tasks or 1 task that you want to tackle that day, it all just depends on how many steps you break down that goal into. So, I don't know, if you want to read a book, like, instead of saying you want to read a book today, say you want to read 1 chapter, depending on how long that's going to take you. It's an easy thing. Like, you can scale up to, I want to read a whole library, and break that goal down. And if you need to set a goal for each day to feel like you accomplished something, you can put it down to smaller chunks that you know you should be able to get done within that day. I don't really need that at this point. I kind of just pick that bigger goal and then I keep working at it, especially when it's kind of unknown. Like, I don't know exactly where this is going to take me, I don't know, when you're building a website, like, you don't know what issues you're going to run into. You don't know, like, what other things. When I was starting the company, and I had to spend like 3 hours on the phone with TD Bank in order to get my bank account, because they have like absurdly strict regulations around business banks to stop money laundering. Like, I didn't realize that was going to happen, which is why focusing on just chipping away at that big task helps. And getting the bank account wasn't even the main thing. The main thing was like, no, I need to get a bank account to link up to the website. And in order to get the bank account, I first had to get the LLC. So like, you go on these subtasks. Like, you have this main goal, but like, getting an LLC is its own subtask and all these things. So I kind of just focus on chipping away, because you don't actually, unless you're doing work that you don't know what other things are going to come up, like what other issues are going to pop up, and subtasks you're going to have to go down.
Things that I was really good at and being efficient at it. And then I found that my business was growing and my practice was growing by doing those types of things. And because of this, at the end of the day, I would be able to check off that 1 big important thing, or if I wrote 3 things, I was able to check it off every time. And for my own mental health and my mindset, I felt accomplished. I felt my self-worth for myself. I felt like, you know what, I can do this. I can be productive because I...
Best thing for your mental health. The fattest black Sharpie that you can buy, just striking it off the paper, like, the satisfaction I get from that is seldom met by much.
I was able to check off every one of those things, because it wasn't a list of 10 or 15 different things, but the 3 most important things that I knew if I did it, I felt like I was accomplished. No matter what else I did in the day, if I got those 3 things done, nothing else mattered. And on top of that,
I wouldn't tie your opinion of yourself to anything else external like this, because stuff comes up, and having an opinion of yourself that's tied externally and doesn't come from within is just a very, very bad practice. So I would meditate, I would work on your own self-image of yourself and kind of detach it so that you're not going to be swinging up and down depending on whether or not you're getting stuff done. I mean, sometimes, like, when you attach your self-worth to something, for me personally, when I attached my self-worth to my grades, I identified with my grades and keeping my obscenely high, going for a 4.0 in college. Like, I didn't get 4.0, I got 3.98. So, screw you, one teacher gave me a B. Anyways, I don't actually care, but I attached my self-worth externally to my grades, which meant that in order to maintain that way I saw myself, I sacrificed social engagements with my friends. I sacrificed my own health, staying up way too late, over caffeinating, just getting far too little sleep, not eating the healthiest. And that's what happens when you attach your image of yourself externally. It's a horrible practice to do, but it is somewhat of a step along the way. If you're going from like someone with a very low self-image, attach that image of yourself to something else, like the work that you can do, and that will raise it up. And then it reaches a point where you detach it because you realize that it's actually holding you back. And once you do that, you continue up. So I don't know what step you're at, but like there is a progression there where attaching your self-worth to something is beneficial and will raise you up from like 0 to 100. And if you want to leave 100 and go above it, you need to leave that attachment behind, because sacrificing your health is a horrible idea in any circumstance.
What it helped me realize is it helped me realize that my ADHD traits were actually really important traits, like my superpowers for being an entrepreneur, where there's a lot of ADHD traits that a lot of people don't realize that are really great for entrepreneurs. If you're wondering, maybe I do have ADHD, or maybe, there is certain traits that I do have that are good for people who have ADHD to be an entrepreneur, well, you should watch this video next that I dive really deep about the 7 ADHD traits that are good for entrepreneurship. So watch this video next.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. That's just a distraction from going back and getting more stuff done and prioritizing stuff. But anyways, I like his video because it sparks ideas in my own head on topics to talk about. It is similar to how I see it. It's not about productivity, it's our prioritization. That's how I would put it. A lot of people don't want to hear that, and that's because when you prioritize, you actually kill part of yourself off. If you have this giant image of yourself, like, I like horseback riding, I like hiking, I like dancing, I like this, and I like my business. Like, if you want to prioritize and be like, well, what do I want to focus on right now? It could be your business, which means this other stuff over here is going to take a second seat. And maybe horseback riding, you don't have time for it anymore, especially when you put family in there and friends. So you're actually killing off part of your identity when you decide not to do a task, which is why it's so difficult to do that, and why prioritizing is actually a really big skill and helps so much, because it's so difficult to do. If you can do this, it will literally put you leaps and bounds above other people that need someone else to prioritize for them, and allow you to be your own boss if that's what you want. It'll allow you to take leadership positions if that's what you want, instead of needing someone else to lead you and telling you what to prioritize. Again, those who can't control themselves will be controlled by others. If you can't control the tasks that you do and pick the big ones that actually move the needle, someone else is going to tell you how to do that. I have a whole video on that, but peace out.